Hello. Hi, Dustin Zarni here, Democratic Elections Commissioner of Onondaga County. Let me turn off my my news program. Yes, I do listen to Rachel Maddow. I don't know why it's going right now, but there you go. All right, so hello. Welcome to Commissioner in a Car. I'm Dustin Zarni, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County, and this is the post-primary canvass is complete edition of Commissioner in a Car. And I'm coming to you on Wednesday this week because this is the only podcast content I'm bringing to you. So I'm doing it on today because today we finally completed our post-canvass, our post-primary canvass, and I wanted to update you on that. So when an election happens, you have your election night results. Those were posted on Tuesday night, but then 7 days after the election, we do the post-election canvass. In this case, the post-primary canvass, which happened yesterday, or started to happen yesterday and finished up today. This is where we, open up and scan in all the vote-by-mail ballots, both absentee and early vote-by-mail, inspector ballots, as well as affidavit ballots that are turned in after the Sunday before election and postmarked or turned in by election day. And they have 7 days after election day to come in. So a lot of these are ones that are either dropped off at the polling place on election day or mailed on election day or the day before election day, or coming in from well outside our state. So it takes a little time for mail to get here, but they were postmarked by election day or before. And the law actually allows for anything that comes in the day after election day, whether it has a postmark or not, to be counted, since it's presumptive that it came in, that it was put in the mail the day before, which is on election day. So, and also any affidavit ballots that are collected at elections, or at polling places, either through the early voting process or on election day, and then those were adjudicated to be good or no good and counted through the scanner on Tuesday. And then we did some wrap-up work this morning. The excellent team at the Board of Elections got that done, and we now have our final but not certified results, and I'll go into what that means. So on our website, on onvote.net, we have uploaded the results of those scans. So there was about 600 or so vote by mail or absentee ballots that came in post the Sunday before election day. Another 100 or so affidavit ballots that came in. So those were all scanned, adjudicated, and placed into the unofficial results that are up on the onvote.net website. So what isn't up there yet are write-ins. Write-in campaigns appear when we do our certified election results, which will be sometime next week. Because before we certify, before we post our certified results, we have to do hand counts on races that are ultra close. These are races that are within 0.5% and or within 20 votes. And we have 7 races that we have to go to a hand count. They're all very small, and they really are not really close in the matter of actually close in the percentage wise, but fall in that within 20 votes range. Those races are Lysander Town Republican to fill a vacancy. That one was too close to call. I think there's 14 votes separating it. There is a Lysander Republican committee race that is within 7 votes, and then 5 conservative committee races, all within 5 to 7 votes as well. So those races are all ones that we have to go to hand count. We will do those hand counts next Tuesday, and once those hand counts are done, we will then certify the election and post the certified results up, hopefully by the end of next week. We don't expect any of these cases to go to court, so that could prevent that. But while the candidates in that race have been notified, and again, these are hyper small races. I think the Lysander ballots are about 300 to 400 ballots. The town Republican committee and conservative committees are going to be less than 20 ballots that we have to actually count. Maybe 30 ballots in the case of a couple of those. So they're really hyper small. I don't see any issue with getting that done next week, next Tuesday, and then we'll be moving on to the general election. We'll be officially in general election mode once next Tuesday is finished. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have it certified, and then moving on to the general election. These races, these hand counts, I think are, while take up extra resources of the Board of Elections, I'm in favor of the hand counts. I think they're good for democracy. I think they can be tightened up because the machines are accurate. We've proven that, especially Onondaga County has proven that, because we've had 90,000 ballot hand counts over the last 2 election cycles, and have shown that the machines are relatively accurate, and there's a hyper small amount of ballots that will change. And the ones that can change in a hand count are really not machine error. They are human error, in the sense that the voter doesn't fill in the bubble correctly, or circles the bubble, or does something else on the ballot that indicates their voter preference, but it doesn't follow the instructions on the ballot to actually count the ballot in the proper way. Usually it's they don't fill in the bubble correctly, or it's very light, or they circle the bubble. That happens. But we can tell how they vote, so we do have to count it. My personal preference, actually, is the preference of all elections commissioners throughout New York. So it would be altered in a way to make it less races fall within this. We would want to be within 10 votes, or within 0.25% to go to a hand count. So that is what our hope is, to get that changed in the future. The problem is this law was put into place by Governor Cuomo through obvious law I want to make about what's going on in the world. It seems things are changing day by day. And last week I talked a little bit about Biden's, the post-debate reaction, and that is continuing. Although I will note that right before I came into the car here today, President Biden did issue a statement saying that he's not dropping from the race. I've issued several Twitter threads or Facebook posts about the difficulty of what it would take to replace Biden as the nominee, and why that really the only choice will be Kamala Harris if that comes to it, because we're so late in the cycle. The hundreds of millions of dollars raised by the Biden-Harris team cannot be transferred to another candidate who's not Kamala Harris, and also that the delegates that are going to the convention are Biden delegates. I've always said, and I will continue to say, President Biden is the nominee, the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party. There was a primary. 15 million people voted in that primary. If we are the party of elections, if we are the party of the people, and we are the party of those, respecting election results, we must respect those election results. President Biden can't be forced by any mechanism in the Democratic primary or in the Democratic convention to give up his his nomination. He can choose to do it on his own. And in that sense, I am not afraid of those discussions. I think those discussions are healthy. We are not a cult. We are a party. We are not the other side. That being said, you cannot expect something to happen that has never happened before without a realistic scenario for what's going to happen after. And right now, there seems to be a lot of wish casting. There's, a lot of people who were never really Biden supporters who want to use this scenario to put in their candidate of choice, which I just don't feel like could happen. I think if President Biden decides to not go forward because of questions of his age, or just a spiraling candidacy, which I'm going to just say right now, I disagree that the candidacy is spiraling and out of control. The net shift in the polls is about 2 points from where they were before debate and where they are after. This is not a spiraling situation as of this moment. Maybe something will happen in the next week or two, or that will change that. Polls fluctuate once the general election comes into focus, and we've seen that throughout history. We've seen post-convention bounces, post-debate bounces. We've seen fluctuations because of external events, terrorist attacks, wars, economic collapses. These things cause fluctuations in the race. And I don't believe that if President Biden is on average 2 points down in the polls right now, that is an unsurmountable deficit that would necessarily mean we have to take the inordinate step of replacing a candidate chosen by the people before the convention. That being said, if President Biden cannot right this ship, then that will be cause for concern. The August convention happens late August, but there will be a virtual convention in late July, early August, because they want to have a vote to make sure that they're not that they're in compliance of Ohio, Alabama, and a few other states that have laws about when the nominee has to be set and when the ballot has to be set. So before the debate happened, there was this talk of a roll call virtual convention that will allow the delegates to formally nominate President Biden and Kamala Harris as the nominees for those states so they can get their paperwork in and not have any hanky-panky by some Republican officials in those states trying to keep them off the ballot. That seems to be the make or break point right there. In between now and then, the Republican convention will happen. And I do believe that the month of July is set up so that President Biden has a chance to show to the American people that he is up to the job of being president for the next 4 years and up to the rigors of a campaign. That can happen. And people who say it can't happen, well, to be quite honest, they're full of shit. Because this has happened before and it will happen again. People can come back from 2-point leads. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying it can happen. And someone who is chosen by the people, there was a primary. There were candidates in the primary. Whether you liked those candidates or not, or felt those candidates had a good shot or not, part of a primary is when candidates choose to get into the race as well. The people have spoken on this. So now it's up to President Biden. That doesn't mean that you don't get an opinion. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't voice your opinion. It doesn't mean that party leaders shouldn't have these discussions. I just think people should realize how hard this type of situation is to go through. It is a historic decision, and it's going to take time. And in the middle of all that, we have a Supreme Court that has declared that the next president of the United States is basically immune from all actions that they take while they're in office if they can be deemed official acts. And there's going to be a lot of fallout for that. And I promise you I'll be having Mr. Tom Keck on my program in the next couple of weeks so we can talk about this ignoramus ruling that happened this last week that has altered American democracy. But that raises the stakes of what this election is about. So that is my broad take on this, and is that discussions can be had. This is the month to have them, but it's Mr. Biden's decision about whether he wants to remain on the ticket. And I believe in elections. I believe that candidates should be chosen by the people. At this late time, there will not be an open convention. The delegates that have been chosen are Biden delegates. If President Biden leaves, it's going to be Kamala Harris. That's just the reality that you need to settle in. And if that's not a reality you're not settling in, then you're living some kind of West Wing fantasy that is not tied to any form of reality. So if your position is President Biden should step down, Kamala Harris should run, pick another president, VP, and turn the torch to the next generation, that's a position that I think is reasonable. I don't necessarily agree with it yet. I think it's reasonable. But if your position is we should have some kind of open convention, that it would be, time for the whatever candidate of du jour, Whitmer, Shapiro, Bernie Sanders again, I can keep hearing that, from time immemorial. That's not going to happen. And and also logistically, the campaign staff that is in place, the structure that is in place, the campaign finance laws that are in place, all of this prevents that from happening. So it's time to wake up. We have two choices. Well, we have three. We have President Biden continuing his campaign. We have Vice President Kamala Harris taking the top spot in the campaign. Or we give the country to Donald Trump. Those are the three choices that are before us. And the Supreme Court justice last week has made it very clear what that will mean if we give the presidency to Donald Trump. And then once we hit the convention, President Biden, if he does not drop, he will be the nominee. And it's time to stop all this talk. We can talk about whether you want to vote for him or not. It's a free country. But you can't talk about replacing him as nominee once that convention starts. And that's just my take on all that. All right, this week, happy holidays, July 4th tomorrow. Happy birthday, America. Hopefully, the day that we celebrate independence from tyranny and a king. Ironically, the SCOTUS has put into place the imperial presidency with his last ruling this last week. So, enjoy the holiday. I will plan on doing a weekly wonk this week. There's an interesting thing that happened with the primary election that it's not really a stats-based wonk. It's going to be talking about what happens when a race has a race and 0 votes are cast. And it did happen in Onondaga County. Tune in the weekly wonk this weekend to find out the circumstances of that, because it's something I've never seen before, so I thought it would be fun to write about. And there's some weird twists and turns to this little thing. So, it's a slice of Syracuse right there. Next week, I plan on getting back on my content schedule with Commissioner and Carr on Tuesday, Zoom with Zarni on Friday, and a weekly wonk on the weekends. And those weekly wonks will take a look back at the primary election that just happened, and then we will move on from there. I don't know who my guest is next week. I'm still kind of working that out. But I plan on being back on my general election content schedule until the November general election. So stay tuned. Go to DustinZarni.com. You can subscribe and get email notifications, and when I put content or election news on the website. And it's always free. It's part of my outreach to voters as part of my office as elections commissioner. and I run it by myself. I post all the content myself. I don't have ad revenue, and I'll never charge for a subscription. It's just part of what I believe my duty is to you, Onondaga County, and those around New York State that follow. Thank you very much, and enjoy your holiday weekend. Bye-bye.